Nothing was helping and it was constantly inflamed. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's do it. So week number 1, I started taking 20 milligrams of Nolvadex in the morning, 20 milligrams of Nolvadex at night. But I'm like, you know what? That is pretty low. I take more than that even for a PCT. So I'm like, fuck it. Let's do 40 in the morning, 40 at night.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we are going to be reacting to Mark Plummer. It is, I might have actually fucked that up, and I probably should know how to pronounce his last name considering he's literally sponsored by my company. But Mark Plummer or Plummer, megadosing Nolvadex to reduce my Gynecomastia experiment in all motherfucking caps. This is supposedly a before and after, or is it just a clickbait thumbnail for the engagement and whatnot? I guess we will find out. I would go to the comment section, but I feel like I'm gonna ruin it if I go there, so I will not. And to be honest, I've already fucking seen it, so this is me more giving my reaction to like in a feedback context rather than a live reaction like I sometimes do. So I've already dug through the comments. I kind of know it would ruin it if I went there, so we're gonna get into it. The video is 28 minutes, but he only talks about it for like, 8 to 10 minutes. The rest of this is a vlog, so we're gonna jump right to the part where he starts talking about megadosing Nolvadex to get rid of his gyno.
Now we could not start this off without our diet beverage of choice, which today we're going with the Sprite. Sugar-free, of course, because, we're fucking dieting! Well, I've kind of fallen off track a little bit. I've been pretty down in the dumps, but you're gonna realize why when I tell you what the fuck I've been doing. So, I appreciate every single one of you guys, because without you crazy motherfuckers on the other side of that screen, I probably wouldn't have had the urge to try this ridiculous experiment to let you know the truth. I'm basically fucking Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Fuck, man.
With goddamn hormones. Now, you cannot, or so
Rest in peace, headphone users.
So we know, you cannot get rid of gyno once it has solidified. But all you guys say that if you megadose Nolvadex or you take Raloxifene, you can reduce the gyno to the point that it's almost not noticeable.
Yeah, so this is something I thought back in the day. I thought if you have a solidified lump, you're pretty much fucked. You have to get surgery. And over the years, I've seen people actually claim reversals, and I've seen enough before and afters at this point to know that you can actually intervene with pharmacology and shrink it to a decent extent. Now, is it ever going to get rid of it? No. However, cosmetically, you may be able to shrink it enough for it to be cosmetically unrecognizable. But again, you're not actually resolving the issue. Rather, it's kind of like a band-aid. And if you're going to be exposing yourself to super physiological doses of hormones again, are you not going to end up in the same position again? You sure as fuck could. Now, some individuals, they don't want to blast again, and or they just, they're able to succeed in minimizing it to a degree where it's no longer problematic for their, insecurity, as well as it just being visually unappealing for a fitness model, look, or even stepping on stage in some cases if it's not that bad to begin with. But, yeah, anyways, like it does seem to actually have the ability to attenuate it even after it has, quote unquote solidified.
So I'm like, I bet, let's fucking do it. So 6 weeks ago, this is what my gyno was looking like. It was looking like that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 damn days a year. It doesn't matter what I would do. I could go take an ice bath or do anything, pinch these motherfuckers. I even debated going to get them pierced, and nothing was helping, and it was constantly inflamed. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's do it. So week number 1, I started taking 20 milligrams of Nolvadex in the morning, 20 milligrams of Nolvadex at night. But I'm like, you know what? That is pretty low. I take more than that even for a PCT. So I'm like, fuck it. Let's do 40 in the morning, 40 at night. So
okay, so that's a high as fuck dose. The standard dose from what I recall for Gynecomastia in persistent pubertal cases is like as low as 10 milligrams, upwards of as high as 40 at the peak. And there's some literature that has emerged that suggests that higher dosages are not necessarily more effective. Some of the breast cancer patients, now again, obviously not gyno related, so perhaps a little bit irrelevant, but they found even as low as 5 milligrams being as effective as some of the higher dosages in the long-term exposure. So, 80 milligrams a day, that's a fucking shit ton, dude.
So 80 milligrams of Nolvadex a week. We're going to do that for 6 full weeks. And this is the 6-week mark. And these results were good, not great. I still believe that you can't get rid of gyno once it has solidified. And the side effects that I've experienced, I wouldn't wish upon my fucking greatest enemy.
Okay, so before we get into the side effects that he's about to go over, and predictably, this is one of the reasons why, when people talk about like haphazardly using SERMs on cycle and whatnot, like the argument comes up, a lot of people ask about using Clomid concurrently with SARMs or something as a test base sort of, or Enclomiphene, obviously a superior option. But stuff like that, obviously, not directly relevant to tamoxifen, which is, typically used as a SERM for gynecomastia management and or in a post-cycle therapy context. But still, anytime you're occupying estrogen receptors, even if it's in a selective way, you're going to encounter some sort of issue likely if it's a long-term exposure. Now, if you're just doing it for a short blast, maybe not the worst thing in the world. Is it the best option though in every scenario? I guess it's case specific. For him in particular, like the side effects from tamoxifen, like this, it's a classic example of why Raloxifene is the preferred modality of gyno management in my opinion. And again, when it comes to tamoxifen, it's not like it's not effective. It's just in the literature, we can clearly see, for example, putting them head to head in a case of, in the treatment of pubertal gynecomastia, conclusion, inhibition of estrogen receptor activation in the breast appears to be safe and effective in reducing persistent pubertal gynecomastia with a better response to Raloxifene than to tamoxifen. Further study is required to determine that this is truly a treatment effect. So, in general, we see greater efficacy from Raloxifene and an improved side effect profile. And in addition to that, some people just don't respond to tamoxifen, and it's because of its pharmacology, or I should say the pharmacodynamic profile of it, whereby it is metabolized. It is a prodrug. It's not the actual parent drug is not actually what's doing what it's doing. Whereas Raloxifene, if I recall correctly, is not a prodrug. It is the parent drug that is in fact doing the estrogen receptor binding to ER. Whereas with tamoxifen itself, it is metabolized in the liver by cytochrome P450 isoform. So if you have polymorphisms in the gene that encodes for these enzymes, like you could have an issue with even metabolizing the tamoxifen into these active metabolites that do the selective estrogen receptor modulation in the specific metabolites you want in specific ratios, whatever it is. Some people just don't respond well to tamoxifen, and it can be literally your liver not converting it properly and your body's specific individual response. So not only is tamoxifen less efficacious head-to-head to tamoxifen, what did I just say? Not only is tamoxifen less efficacious head-to-head to Raloxifene, but in addition to that, its side effect profile is worse from what I've seen, anecdotally as well as clinically. And in addition to that, you might not even metabolize it correctly to actually have it be effective once it's, fully broken down into its metabolites. So with Raloxifene, the bioavailability is kind of shitty, but at least what is getting through is actually what is binding to estrogen receptors. So anyways, going to his specific side effects, we will elaborate further after I hear kind of his elaboration of what happened.
So let's get into the side effects, and then I'll show you some before and after pictures and kind of show you what happened to me. Side effect number 1 is super lethargic, tired, and unmotivating feelings. Now, it probably was only 6 days in, and you guys know, if you've been watching this channel, I'm a huge believer in only sleeping like 4 to 6 hours a night, sometimes even less, and then taking a nap throughout the day. I put all my eggs into one basket. I'm constantly working, constantly hustling, constantly going after the next business venture and trying to succeed as best as I can in this life, and I'm loving every fucking second of it. For the last month and a bit, I've been fucking upset. I've been tired. I've been down. I've been sleeping 8 hours and waking up feeling like I haven't even slept. And I'm taking like Gorilla Dream, which is knocking me the fuck out. Like,
get my money, Jake! Get my fucking money, Jake!
Usually I wake up several times throughout the night.
Swear to God if I get a copyright claim for that.
So I started taking Gorilla Dream and then 1 IU of growth hormone right before bed. And I've been like passing the fuck out, having the most wild dreams, and then waking up like I haven't even slept. It takes me till like 4 o'clock to actually like wake up. I'm super motivated for like 2 hours. And then by like 8 or 9 o'clock, I'm fucking done again. I'm tired and I just want to go to bed. And I believe that that is from megadosing Nolvadex. It's just the influx of hormones, and I don't have enough estrogen in my system to do my day-to-day tasks and feel like a normal human being.
Okay, but again, is this a knock on tamoxifen itself or the fact that you're megadosing the fuck out of it? This is like, if you take like triple the efficacious dose of any drug, are you going to feel good? You know, if you take 1,000 milligrams of caffeine, are you going to feel good? No, you'll feel like fucking dying. Whereas if you took 300, you'll feel pretty solid, you know? So it's like, is it the tamoxifen's fault or is it your fault for choosing to use 80 milligrams a fucking day, dude? That's what I would ask. And in addition to that, if it's not working, you know, at the lower dosage, perhaps you're just one of the non-responders. Maybe you have one of those issues with that enzymatic process or the genes that encode for them, and you have polymorphisms that otherwise would warrant, and to be honest, even if you didn't have that issue, I think Raloxifene is a more efficacious option in general anyways. That would be the go-to in my opinion. So I don't know if this is necessarily a knock on tamoxifen, rather it's just further showing how obviously over the top this protocol really was.
And it is fucking shitty and it sucks because I really want to hustle. I want to make better videos. I want to do everything. And to be honest, it took me 3 days just to film this because I've been so fucking tired. And that's really all I have to say about that. Number 2, fucking acne, guys. You guys know that I've dealt with acne my entire life, and I've gotten to a point where my skin is pretty damn fucking good. And about 3 days after taking 80 milligrams of Nolvadex every single day, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm getting a whole bunch of little breakouts all around my mouth, but my back is getting these big lumps again. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's getting those like big cystic lumps that aren't coming to a head, which means it's not a cleanliness issue because I formulated my own acne attack skincare black charcoal bamboo soap that has no scent, that is perfect for like not breaking out for whiteheads, but this is purely hormonal based. So like the minute I started megadosing Nolvadex, I started breaking out like a motherfucker, especially on my back with cystic acne. And I've even been getting like some on my forehead. And I mean, it's not compared to what it was before, but it's definitely painful. And I'm pretty embarrassed again to take my shirt off. I was in a pretty good spot where like I didn't have gyno. I had really good skin. I was looking fucking great. And here we are just trying to cross correct. And that's why I want to make these videos as transparent as possible, because everything you do has a consequence. You have to remember that. So acne is probably the second shitty thing that happened from megadosing Nolvadex.
Any kind of hormonal fluctuation can cause a breakout. Like you'll probably note, if you've used gear, the worst breakouts are most often when you're coming off. Like when you have no hormones in your system and you're fluctuating down, you would think, oh, no androgenic hormones coming into my system, I'm going to have less acne. Oftentimes during PCT is the worst breakout, which is, you know, totally paradoxical to what you would think would happen, but any kind of fluctuation in general can cause massive issues in terms of acne breakouts. And that also, you know, lends to the idea of more stable blood serum concentrations using more frequent administrations rather than infrequent bolus administrations, because the more stable your hormone levels are, the less fluctuations, the more unlikely it is that your skin will break out, at least, you know, anecdotally.
Is my sexual desires and my like intimacy with Paige. Paige is a fucking dime. Like, she's gorgeous.
By the way, I have on my watch list her experience with Anavar. It's been on my watch list for a while. Let me know if you guys want me to react to that. Like, I don't know what the demand is for like female anabolics videos, but she has an Anavar experience video, and I thought reacting to that might be insightful. So if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments down below.
Literally jump on her 24/7. Like, she would walk in the door and I'd like be humping her leg. We'd be on the couch and I'd be trying to like finger blast her pussy while we're watching goddamn Dory and shit, because I was like a fucking horn dog 24/7. But I like I haven't had the urge to do anything sexual. Like, even like I would jack off sometimes, to keep this as transparent as possible. I haven't even had the urge to like jack off. So like,
okay, so again, tissue selectivity. You have to remember this is a selective estrogen receptor modulator. So when you're occupying estrogen receptors, the whole point that you're trying to do with this drug is occupy them selectively in the breast tissue. But what happens with, let's use SARMs as an example, because this is an exact parallel to what we see when you megadose SARMs. What happens when you take a super high dose of a SARM? Do you maintain the same tissue selectivity that you do at a low dose? Even if you have a tissue selective anabolic agent, like a fucking steroid like Primobolan, or I don't know, Masteron, fucking Trenbolone, any anabolic steroid that was designed to be more tissue selective than testosterone, there's a therapeutic limit whereby it is tissue selective, and the higher you go, the more diminishing anabolic response you get with increased side effect profile and androgenicity. The same thing happens with SARMs. When you blast your dosages into the sky, do you get parallel increases in muscle growth relative to the increase in side effects? No, you don't. You start getting off-target interaction. It starts becoming less selective. You start activating androgen receptors in areas you don't want. So the same thing's going to happen if you're megadosing tamoxifen, in my opinion. If you're trying to selectively target estrogen receptors in a certain area, and you megadose the fuck out of a compound which is like oversaturating the fuck out of everything, like what's going to happen? You're going to start getting off-target interaction with hormonal systems, with estrogen receptors that you don't want to, because you don't need this much of the drug. It's not meant to be used at this dosage. And when you do use it at this dosage, you start to get undesired side effects, including inhibition of estrogen receptor activation, probably in areas you don't want, and I'm not surprised that something that is inhibiting estrogen receptor activation is causing him low libido, low desire. Like, this is a classic fucking low E side effect. Like, when I crushed my estrogen into the ground intentionally with letrozole in the past to try and dry out, I literally stopped giving a fuck about women entirely. Like, I was back in the PUA days, and I was, dating a few people at the time. I literally just stopped talking to them. Like, I didn't break it off. I didn't do anything. I just didn't literally stop caring about females entirely, and my dick only ceased to function as a urinary fucking excretion tool. Like, it had no desire to do fucking anything. It was just a flaccid fucking appendage that pissed. That's all it did. So this is not an unexpected side effect. The fact that he's megadosing it too certainly doesn't help. So a lot of this shit you have to keep in mind that was in the context of him using literally over double what he needs at the high end of the efficacious dose. So this isn't necessarily typical, although, you would expect something to happen at this kind of a dose. That does not reflect necessarily horribly on the compound, rather it reflects horribly on his protocol design. But in addition, if he's a non-responder to tamoxifen and want a more efficacious option with a lower, burden of side effects, he probably should have opted for Avista/Raloxifene.
If Paige and I don't end up having sex, I'll go 4 or 5 days without jacking off, where I would jack off every single day and have sex with her every single day, and still want to have more sex, and all of that is gone because it feels like I can still get hard. I don't get as hard as I normally do, but if Paige and I start with foreplaying and getting things going, I still can get hard and perform in the bedroom. It's nowhere near to what it normally is, but sitting here right now, I couldn't even wrap my head around being oh fuck, I have to have sex, And that's never happened to me before, and is definitely one of the side effects from megadosing this Nolvadex. So those are kind of the only 3 things that happened to me with megadosing Nolvadex. But with that said, I don't think that the offset of that was enough gyno reduction. Now, I believe that I probably reduced maybe 20-25% gyno. And I used to look like this every single day. You could see it through my shirt. You could see it out of the shower. This picture that I just showed you, I was right out of the shower, after taking a fucking freezing cold shower, and they were that puffy. And then this was yesterday out of the shower. Now you can barely even tell it's there because smaller, less inflamed gyno, when you get cold or you flick your nipples, won't be as noticeable, and there's things you can do to make sure that it's not even noticeable. Me just sitting here right now, I can show you guys like this is basically like, you can definitely still see that it's there, and you can see some of the puffiness of the nipples. But compared to, like, if I flex, you can definitely see it more. But
I'm like laughing just at the fact that like this is the kind of shit we react to, just like guys like flexing their nips and shit.
You can't even come close to seeing how bad it was in those showers.
The nip videos perform well, and they're good educational material is the justification. You know, how many guys deal with this shit? How many guys don't want to deal with this shit and do end up with it because they aren't properly educated? It's a good thing this kind of stuff exists.
And like, you can definitely tell that it did reduce maybe 20-25%, and to the overall touch of the actual lump, it is a lot less.
Looks way better to me.
But with that said, guys, I don't think that doing this is better than getting the surgery. One, due to all the side effects that I just mentioned. Two, if you think that your gyno is the size of a pea, it's probably the size of a golf ball. If you think your gyno is the size of a marble, it's probably the size of an orange. If you think your fucking gyno is the size of like an orange, it's probably the size of a fucking bowling ball. Whatever you can feel with your hands, I would probably add at least 20 to 30% on that size, because it goes down and in. And I just would...
It's a fucking bowling ball gyno. It's a bit of an exaggeration.
rather not put my body in such a hormonal disbalance to get such a minor reduction in the gyno, instead of just spending, like, I have a quote, and it's $8,900 to get the glands removed. And when you get the glands removed, you never have to worry about it again. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to always have that in the back of your head. You do it once and it's gone. And
yeah, so I think if you're like a top aspiring bodybuilder who's competitive and has potential, or your career relies on this in some way, the surgery is probably the way to go. Reason being, if you're going to be exposing yourself to super physiological doses of hormones and you can't avoid gyno exacerbation without deploying AIs and having to implement SERMs all the time in order to, you know, pull back the fucking, you know, puffiness and whatnot, like that's going to have a hindrance on your health in the long term and actually impact your longevity in the sport and your fucking longevity on the planet probably. So this is something that if you're inevitably going to expose yourself to higher doses, you know, than therapeutic replacement, as a long-term strategy, it's probably wise to just get it cut out. Like there are a lot of individuals I know who actually have to choose compounds that are less healthy and less effective overall, and or, you know, have a better side effect profile, just because they end up with gyno issues when they're using a higher dose of, you know, fill in the blank compound. So they have to opt for something that is very low on the estrogenicity side and or deploy high doses of anti-estrogenic compounds in order to kind of like counteract the fact that they can't respond well in a literal gyno sense to, you know, the agents that would otherwise be facilitating the best growth, lowest cardiovascular disease risk, etc., lowest organ stress in general, and they have to pick compounds that are like less optimal for their health, muscle growth outcomes, longevity in the sport, etc., solely because they don't want to fuck up their gyno. Like that's not a good place to be in as a, you know, aspiring bodybuilder or whatever it is. And in that case, you know, getting it cut out proactively is probably a reasonable strategy to discuss with your doctor, obviously, not fucking YouTube guys. So anyways, but as far as other individuals who have like a minor thing where it's like a persistent pubertal gyno or something, yeah, I'm sure something like Raloxifene is worthwhile to discuss with your doctor as well. That's literally like what they're fucking being studied for, not only with breast cancer, but in addition with persistent pubertal gyno. You know, that's the kind of thing that they've been looked at clinically for and they're very effective at. So I don't necessarily think that in every single situation you should be getting the surgery. Like if you're a guy who doesn't even blast steroids and you just happen to end up with it through genetic predisposition, And then you can potentially get rid of it, you know, as an adult, you know, now that you're done puberty, you're not exposing yourself to super physiologic or, you know, super fucking high doses of IGF-1, testosterone, estrogen, etc. And things are starting to kind of like taper down a little bit. You know, maybe the Raloxifene might be a reasonable strategy. It certainly seems to work for a lot of individuals, even guys who do stuff like, you know, anyways, I'm not going to get into it too much more because this video is getting kind of long. But what I can say is for him saying it's not worth the side effect profile, well, A, you're potentially using a compound you might not respond that well to. B, you're using way higher of a dose than you needed. And so like this is not really reflective necessarily of the typical experience on a SERM to manage gynecomastia. Like what if you were using Raloxifene, which is superior? What if you're using an actual reasonable dose where you're not megadosing the fuck out of it, you know? Like this is the kind of thing that I think should have been explored before, you know, jumping to the conclusion that surgery is like definitely better in every single situation. So that is my stance.
For someone that's taking their bodybuilding career to the next level, their powerlifting career to the next level, and this is my full-time job, that is worth it to me. And especially when my brand and image is basically kind of looking good, spreading knowledge, like showing you guys like the proper way. Megadosing Nolvadex is never going to be a solution to solidified gyno.
Yeah, but you're the one who chose the Megadosed tamoxifen, you know? Like, it's not like you couldn't have done something different. But again, yeah, like in terms of his context, if you're somebody who's like definitely going to be exposing yourself to super physiological doses of hormones for, you know, long spans of time for the foreseeable future, then yeah, the surgery probably makes a lot of sense, you know? You don't want to be choosing compounds that are subpar in, you know, performance aspect, you know, in a cardiovascular disease aspect, simply because you don't want to end up with a fucking puffy nipple, you know?
Now, if you just had gyno within the last 2 or 3 months, then yes, like that would be a completely different story. But we're talking about if you've had gyno from puberty, if you've had gyno for the last year, I would not recommend trying to manipulate your hormones or your body into getting rid of that gyno, because honestly, it's just not possible. So I hope this video helps. I hope this kind of clears up the misconceptions. I hope that you guys can take these before and after pictures and kind of like, again, just do what's best for you, but just be warned that the side effects from doing this is not good, and especially for like your actual health and longevity. I'm very, very interested to see what my blood work comes back at, because of how fucking aggressive I just was with this Nolvadex.
So interestingly enough, your blood work will probably look better, you know? It's going to improve your lipid profile probably. It'll lower your IGF-1 a bit probably. Estrogen will probably stay similar. Maybe your thyroid values might be thrown off a bit, but I bet your lipids probably don't look. Your SHBG is probably chronically low because of the super physiological doses of androgens you're on. I would bet your SHBG and lipids look better after this Nolvadex exposure than they did previously. That's not necessarily saying this is a good thing, but you'd be surprised, dude, when you actually look into the mechanism of action of this stuff. It's not going to be your blood work might look better, to be honest. And that doesn't reflect good on the drug, like you should be doing this to manage your lipids or something. I'm just saying, you'd be surprised what your blood work looks like.
Yeah, that's really it. Thank you guys so much for watching.
All right, so let's get to the comment section, because there was a couple in here. Of course, I'm going to react to this with a fucking K. Let's see, where is the, there was something he said here about, Raloxifene not being easy to get. Derek is going to react to this. He's going to be like, bro, your estrogen until you use Raloxifene for 3 months. I'm not going to tell you to do that. This is what he says. I'm pretty well connected in the bodybuilding scene, if you know what I mean, and no one in Canada can get their hands on that no cap. Dude, you're definitely wrong, you know? It's not that fucking hard to find, even among underground labs. Like, there are a lot. I live in Canada, and trust me, it's not that fucking hard. So, anyways, and that's not to say you should not be getting it through your doctor. Obviously, you should be getting it through your doctor, and that's where it, you know, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, this is not necessarily true, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You should be working with your physician for this stuff. No shit, blah, blah, blah. I can guarantee you anything you find is fake unless it's prescription. I don't know why he has this, you know, misconception about shit. You know, I I don't know why, you know? It's kind of odd that he thinks that. I don't know why you would think tamoxifen is super fucking easy to get, and somehow, I understand Raloxifene is a bit more obscure, a bit more exotic, but it's not like it's the fucking hidden steroids of Machu Picchu or whatever the fuck Tony Hughes used to say. Like, it's definitely exists, I'll tell you that. So, let's see, anything else in here? My endo gave me 6 weeks of Nova, 20 milligrams a day, gave me similar size, stopped after 3 weeks. Yes, I don't like Nova personally for, like in a post-psychotherapy context, by the way, something that should be noted is Nolvadex is far superior to Raloxifene in an HPTA negative feedback context, but for a gyno context, Raloxifene shits on Nolvadex in my opinion. Let's see. Yeah, pretty much most of the stuff about the dose is high, more plates, more dates. I've entered the chat apparently, which here I fucking am. So yeah, anyway, that's pretty much the summation of it. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Might have learned something. Let me know what you guys think in your personal opinions in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplacemordates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplacemordates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, it's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home, as well as my recommended lab tests and diagnostics to stay on top of your health, as well as if you're exposing yourself to this kind of stuff, it would be wise to have consistent blood work and qualified professionals to interpret that blood work for you, obviously, and give their medical oversight. Anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.